Hey listeners, this is Wendy Haddad. This episode is packed with information, but there may be topics we didn't have time to get into or might have even missed. We'd love to hear from you as we're planning for future episodes, and you can do so by navigating to aka.ms/low-code topic request. You can also participate live in the discussion now in our Low Code Approach LinkedIn community. We'd sure love to have you join us. And now, on to the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Low Code Approach. I'm Senior Man-Child, aka Sean Feeney, the Product Marketing Manager for Power Platform, and I'm joined by...
Senior Child, Senior Product Manager of Power Platform Security, Jocelyn. And I always have...
Ken Aguilar, the person that no one ever listens to, but knows better than everyone else, usually, at least everyone on this podcast. Jocelyn, who do we have with us today?
But before we have who we have with us, we usually have Wendy. But Wendy is off on a very, very critical side quest. She heard rumors and myths and legends of some incredible food called a pizza puff. And with us, we have not only the expert in all things pizza puff, but also the expert in all things Power Platform operations, Austin Laugesen. Austin, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jocelyn, Ken, and Sean. Thank you for having me here today. One, I will vouch and weigh in for the pizza puff. It's delicious if you haven't had it. And two, I hope anyone listening is excited to learn more about managed operations. That's why I'm here today.
Yay. Yeah, actually, Austin, you hit the word exactly, managed operations. At that same time that we discovered the pizza puff in Chicago, we did the announcements of managed operations, managed security, managed governance. And so this is the third of 3 episodes where we cover each one of those pillars. So this is managed operations. So before we actually go deep dive into managed operations, can you give us a highlight of what is managed operations all up and why did we actually come out with this pillar?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take a step back and not talk about operations and then very quickly get to operations. But in the age-old realm of software development, there is the notion of planning the software you plan to build, building the software you plan to build, testing it, deploying it, monitoring it, and improving it. Managed operations largely plays in the realm of kind of testing. We'll talk about that when we go to the details. Absolutely plays in deployment of software updates, and then absolutely plays in the realm of monitoring, all in the spirit of, hey, what's going on in the wild? Let's try to tame the wild and take whatever's wrong in the wild and go improve it. So then you can go back with this vicious cycle or the feedback loop of whatever I built, I can improve, and I know I'm improving based on what I see happening in the wild. Ideally, success metrics are going up, failure metrics are going down.
Is that it? I thought we were going to talk about maple bars now.
Whoa. No, dude, it's pizza puffs. That's the food for this episode. Maple bars.
Sausage?
I'm just kidding, John. Austin. In all seriousness, what can you monitor? What can a customer monitor? And perhaps what's on the future? Something like API limits, Dataverse. What else is there?
So, is this a Dataverse specific question?
Yeah.
So let's go with a yes and story. So with managed operations, it's, our product documentation reflects, hey, there's all these explicit capabilities for deployments. And then on the monitoring perspective, there's all these explicit capabilities for how we can monitor to understand what's going on in the wild and how we can improve. Now, the portfolio of what we can monitor is 1, some legacy analytics, and then 2, just hot off the press and more metrics that are coming in the future for how do I understand what's going on with environments that have Dataverse? How do I understand what's going on with apps, with flows, with agents, so on and so forth? Now, one thing you can do with Dataverse environments today is understand API throttle limits or just API limits in general for a Dataverse environment. Now, that exists in the legacy experience, the original, or that what we call the old Power Platform Admin Center, and it's getting, I'll share it here first, it's getting a revamp, and it's going to be one of the next metrics that we evolve into the new monitoring experiences that we have coming to Power Platform, that we already have Like for those who are familiar using the new Power Platform Admin Center, if you look at the monitor section, today you can look at stuff for Power Apps. You can look at metrics for Power Automate. Very soon, we're going to have more specific metrics for Dataverse, and that's going to be inclusive of API throttle limits.
So this is the third episode that we've had about managed platform since Ignite. And with operations, I find it really awesome how close the collaboration between admin and maker is. I've read a little bit about deployment and pipelines and all that kind of stuff with solutions. Tell me a little bit about maker responsibility when it comes to that.
Yeah. So enterprise software is used by enterprises, which are usually organizations of many people. And if you take any one capability and gate it to the few, like if you leave it locked away for admins, and historically, when it comes to mission critical software, people will think like, oh yeah, the IT org, they're going to go deploy my updates. However, when you have platforms that really reduce barriers for the masses to go build and build at scale, ideally, the platform scales some activities like deploying. And so in managed operations, a core asset of operations is deployment. We have, in Power Platform, we're trying to break down what are the maker explicit actions and what are the admin specific actions. So as much as possible, when a maker goes and makes an update, they can proceed with publishing their changes to production when they know they're ready. Because an admin shouldn't be a gatekeeper on every change ever that should ever have to go to production. And by the way, if an organization cares to have that gate, they absolutely can. We want to support that. There is this notion of delegated deployments where a maker can say, yo, I'm ready to publish to production. And then they'll kick off a pipeline that, if the configuration is set up, it goes to an admin saying, hey, please review what's about to go to production and choose whether or not you approve. And the contents of that, the payload to review is, hey, what is in the payload? What's the solution deploying to production? What is like a humane description, a human readable description? 2, you can include test pass rates. If it's not passing 100% of tests, it's a good reason to gate or not follow through with the approval. Or say there's high trust, there's high passing, and the description seems reasonable, admins can proceed with deploying. So operations is about, as much as possible, let makers go deploy the changes they know are ready for prod. When necessary, admins can be a gate if they want to be, just to help ensure higher quality in production.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate that. Can you talk a little bit about how, some of these deployment features for managed operations are enabling organizations? And if you have any examples, please don't name customers, but if you have any examples for how it's helping organizations deploy agents, because they can now run these agent solutions through a development lifecycle, and what are some of those gains that they might be seeing out in the real world?
So in all honesty, it is technically possible to deploy agents. However, there are some shortcomings that we are actively investing in to get rid of or eliminate those shortcomings. Because today, if you go build an agent, you're going to go hit the special publish button, and you effectively say, hey, take this agent and publish it to a channel like Teams. So it can go augment and be part of an information worker's flow of work inside of Teams to help them out answering random questions. But if you take an agent and you deploy it such that it lands in prod, it's a little cumbersome to actually drive the end user consumption of that agent that is deployed to prod. So albeit technically possible, it is cumbersome, and we are aware of that. So we are making investments. So Sean, when you ask me this in 3 to 6 months, I will have a much richer and better answer for exactly this. But if we talk about apps or flows, oh man, I got a litany of examples.
We're gonna that basically just invited yourself back on the show in 6 months so we can cover that topic one more time.
I like the way he set him up. Yeah, he did that. He just self-invited himself perfectly. So Austin, you mentioned something about test passes. Are you saying now that we have the long-standing ask perhaps completely figured out, which is testing applications, automated testing within managed operations?
Completely, no. But more than zero, yes. So in all honesty, today, what you can do with the pipelines that you can exercise inside of Power Platform, like you can have, there are extensibility hooks. Like you can go kick out to Azure DevOps, where many organizations already have their own pipeline, their Azure DevOps pipelines to run whatever automations, including like imagine test engine. One of the capabilities that we have today, you can have pipelines or Power Platform pipelines kick off Azure DevOps pipelines, which can then go trigger test automation with test engine. And then you can get some of the test pass results. Now, one thing we're looking at, and I don't have a date, but one thing we know we want to realize and we are building the plans to deliver on is, well, let's remove that hop of going from Power Platform pipelines to Azure DevOps pipelines to execute test engine. Let's just execute test engine natively inside of Power Platform pipelines. And then as engine in parallel, as it supports a broader and broader suite of providers, like not only Power Apps and Cloud Flows or just flows in general, as it supports Copilot Studio, like test engine, one will be easier to trigger. And then two, it can run a broader suite of tests with every deployment.
So I heard a few things inside of that. One is that everything will be built by next week or by the time this podcast is actually airing. That's the first thing I actually heard there. The second thing is you said there's a lot of, again, extensibility and hooks and so on. So can you tell us a little bit, and here's questions that we've heard from customers. I have an existing investment inside of ADO, Azure DevOps, or an existing investment inside of GitHub. Can I now take that and pull that into managed operations? How can I leverage my existing investments instead of having to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about specifically with deployments. The way Power Platform pipelines are set up today is that, you're taking a solution from one environment, you export it, and then you import it to another environment across as many stages as you want or as many environments as you want. Now, between the export and the import, there are extensibility hooks such that you can go trigger let's just call it third party. Azure DevOps is a Microsoft offering, but let's just say non-Power Platform workflow. You can go trigger. That exists today, and that is not going away by any means. If anything, a lot of what we're doing with Power Platform, and especially with managed operations, is how do you raise the floor for the masses? And then, hey, by the way, we're not going to pigeonhole anyone into our one product solution. If people want to go further than what we provide out of box, absolutely, there's an extensibility hook. We're doing this on the deployment front. We're also doing this on the monitoring front. I won't go further on monitoring unless you ask. And I'm soliciting. I want you to ask.
Managed environments had its logo, right? Had its catchphrase, and it included more visibility. But we also have in the managed ops pillar observability. I want you to tell me a little bit how you perceive this angle of observability, and maybe throw in some stuff about monitoring and health metrics in there if you can, versus how we see visibility from the governance perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the stark contrasts between visibility of what's going on in my tenant, I have 100,000 apps. We know in observability, it's like, ideally every maker can look into any one thing they have jurisdiction over, they care about. But when you think of the admin center for tenant admins or center of excellence teams or operations teams, they don't care about the 100,000 resources. They care about the few, the upper echelon, the most important, or the mission critical resources. And one, they want to know, are things degraded in production? And then two, if they're degraded, why are they degraded? What metrics are suffering? How does that impact the business? And then three, how do we go improve that? So there's I don't want to say a 1-2 punch, but there are a few things we're tackling right now. One, we're just providing more out-of-box metrics for apps, for flows, and it'll soon be pages and soon be Dataverse environments. There's a lot that's coming where out-of-box we'll just say, hey, these are important operational health metrics you should be tuned into. So one, there's going to be just a breadth of metrics and recommendations on how to improve those. Two, a thing we hear time and time and time again, because if you look at the monitor experience as it is today, we have this overview page. One, we have the same health at a glance cards in the admin center as we do in make.powerapps.com. And if any app appears in the apps aren't opening, or your app looks slow, or it's really slow. If it appears in that list, it means you should probably drill in. But the big problem with what we do out of box with a hard-coded threshold is that's a system or a platform set threshold. Customers really just want to set their own thresholds. Microsoft, Power Platform, Austin, tell me under these conditions that an app is degraded, or that a flow is degraded, or that an agent is degraded. So alerting is a new capability that is just core. That is something we're actively investing in. And with the absence of us doing it inside a Power Platform, you can do it with Azure Application Insights. Like any workload in Power Platform that emits data to Azure Application Insights, you can produce metrics there and then set alerts on them. But again, in the spirit of like raise the floor for the masses and then enable people to go as far as they want if they want to in the long term, we want to enable alerting on our out-of-box metrics. Because that is one thing that'll just raise the floor for everyone. Oh, sweet. I know why these metrics exist in the product. And under the conditions I set, I Contoso, not Austin at Microsoft. So they really get a tailored experience. Now, Jocelyn, you had said health or mentioned health. We also believe like when customers express the conditions for which they're going to receive an alert, that is a strong signal to tell the customer where their relative health is. And so we don't have to define a formula for health. Like, is my health 100 or is it less than 100? And arguably, that's all that matters. If it's not 100%, if it's not perfectly healthy, I have to go drill in, whether I be the admin, I be the center of excellence, or I be the maker. So introducing health as a concept is something that's on our radar, but it's something we're trying to do mindfully. So, we don't just confuse the world with yet another abstracted score. If anything, it's going to be, what is something that indicates I have a reason to drill in to go improve things for my business?
So you mentioned like alerts that we want to send out to people, and we can, in time get more granular and more customization around what type of alerts and to who. How does that interact with the current experience with Advisor being embedded into the monitoring page right now, where it's giving you these proactive recommendations? How would that differ from those alerts that you just spoke of?
So this is where we're trying to do our best with serendipity. One, monitoring hub, agnostic of alerts. Bear with me for a second. All recommendations that appear in the monitor experience, those funnel through the advisor. So one, we have this common engine of any recommendation we give to a customer for any persona within an organization, whether it be admin, environment admin, a maker, it's going through one place. There is one place to get all the recommendations. And then two, alerts. One, there's this better together story of like, we know customers will care about alerting on operational health metrics, which is the jurisdiction of the monitor experience. One thing I can't speak to as much in detail, like I can just speak to, hey, this is something Microsoft is evaluating and building plans for, is how do we allow customers to set conditions on arbitrary data points inside of the Power Platform to receive notifications? And I'm very explicitly not going to call out alerts, but just say notifications. Like, I want to know. So if we take the resources without an owner, like people who left an organization, instead of making that like a reactive, like I the admin have to go in to see, is there an updated list? It's, I could express, oh, that's a very important signal for me. Therefore, I want to know on some cadence, oh, there are apps or there are flows or there are agents that meet that criteria. That's a little out of the jurisdiction. That is out of the jurisdiction of Monitoring Hub, but with the whole notion of conditions under which we send a signal, it is a broader V team that is building that story. So whatever we do for alerting from MonHub, which is going to be really on the metrics that you can monitor in the monitor experience, it has a complementary story to any alerting experience that may come outside of the Monitoring Hub. And it's going to be built on the foundation of like, how do they complement one another? And it seems like a cohesive experience, not two teams built something entirely different.
Austin, I'm going to ask my question here and maybe put you in a little bit of the hot seat, sir. So customers, as I used to be one, and Sean, in a manner of speaking, was one as well. Sometimes we know better than everyone else, right? And we like to create our own reports, right? Because the data that we provide from our aspect, from Microsoft aspect, is pretty general, right? We have to serve millions of customers, not just a single customer specifically. So when I say that we know better than everyone else, I mean specifically my own organization's data. From an extensibility standpoint, do we give or provide APIs so that a customer can consume the monitoring reports, the data, the telemetry, and create their own reporting? Or is that maybe something that's on the horizon for us if we're not doing it already?
There's a bit of both. There's some of what comes out of box today that you can just consume, but the most immediately way it's consumable is it's through the data export or through Azure App Insights. But I would say there's some amount of like new meaningful metrics that we bring to the monitor experience, maybe just slightly ahead of ensuring it exists in that data export. Long term, we want it to be just a superset. Like whatever we give you out of box, we want you to be able to export and take to go do whatever you want with, for a number of reasons. One, we know customers, they want to have custom data retention. Like there's some amount of what we'll do in box that we only give you a report for 28 days. But some customers want longer term historical trends, which is beautiful. Two, sometimes customers want metrics we just don't give out of box. Or three, they want dimensions on existing metrics where we out of box aren't introducing that dimension. And so it requires a customer to go further. Let's go do an export and slice and dice a slightly different way. So there's some amount of evolving story. There's some you just get, and there's some places where we're going to have to just ensure, as part of the completion of a metric, let's make sure it's emitted for data export.
So let's just double click on that one just for a second, right? So I understand we're talking about products, obviously, that are within Power Platform Admin Center and so on, right? But you mentioned Azure Insights. So would you say that that also gives customers a plethora of options, if you will, right? For them to create their own dashboards and so on, right?
Yes, as much as possible. I will say it's not Power Platform. It's not the Power Platform Monitor experience versus Azure Application Insights. It's a coexist story. And for any customer that wants to go further than what we're doing out of box, that is a beautiful, one, it's a Microsoft offering, but then two, it relatively palatable or easy way to go further than what we provide out of box.
It's one of the reasons why I love talking to you, Austin. I never get a no, but I always get a yes and answer from you.
Hey, if I'm going to be branded for anything, I'm grateful it's that.
100%.
This has been really awesome. I feel like we've learned a lot. I feel like I've learned a lot, especially from Ken and I coming from the more GovSec side of things. If I want to learn more, what should I go read? Where should I get started? How do I learn more from about everything that you shared?
Absolutely.
Is there a blog or something?
Yes. I was just going to say, for those who haven't read the blog that went out at the Ignite timeframe, so like the November 2024 timeframe, please Google Power Platform Managed Operations. Sean, Jocelyn, Ken, if we can put a link in the description, please, let's do that.
I got you. I can do that.
And then in addition to that, it's stay tuned. Like, look forward to our huge marketing moments, like Build. Of course, there's going to be an even richer story at Power Platform Computing Conference. There's going to be even more at the next Ignite, but we don't have to wait that long. So look forward to May, look forward to October, look forward to November. And I would say this isn't where we're trying to do a lot for a big bang moment on those 3 months. We are shipping a lot of stuff incrementally. So tune into the product. Like, actually, if you're an admin or a center of excellence person, please go into the admin center. If you're a maker, please go to make.powerapps.com. Go use the monitor experience. And you can always reach me. How we do it from this channel, I'm not going to share my email here, but like, I'm a very accessible product manager. And I love jumping on calls with customers because everything I work towards is grounded in, I know a customer has, or many customers have a problem with this.
And before we close, can you please just share a little bit of heaven and describe to the audience what exactly is a pizza puff?
It's a euphoric experience. That is, it is like the best ratio of a bready dough with some sort of hot tomato-based sauce, with some sort of cheese, and optionally a meat. I don't actually know any more beyond the details of that, other than this is a famous concoction available in Chicago. And so for those who are fortunate enough to be able to go there and, are eligible to eat one of these things, I highly recommend it.
This was the best example of marketing done by a PM ever. Like, you went through a feature list for marketing. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hey, Austin, it was awesome to have you on. We'll see you again in about 6 months. This rocked. I can't wait to talk to you again.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Austin.